Julian's secretary was pregnant. For our 9th anniversary dinner, he brought her home, calmly. He instructed me. The girl is picky with food. From now on, 3 meals a day, none can be the same. She gets scared easily and can't sleep alone. Pack up your things and move to the guest room. I said nothing, picked up the luggage I had packed long ago, and walked quietly toward the door. The butler tried to stop me, but the man let out a cold laugh. Let her throw a tantrum. She'll come crawling back within 3 days, tail between her legs. At that, everyone laughed out loud. Right in front of me. They bet 10 million yuan. They wagered I wouldn't even make it through the night. I'd be back like a pathetic simp, crying and begging Julian to let me in. What they didn't know was that a Maybach he had no idea about was already waiting outside the house. This time, I was really leaving. Chapter 1. Just as I was about to step through the villa gates, Julian called out to me, "Diana, leave your safety bracelet. Moni's been having nightmares lately." The bracelet was a keepsake left by my parents. Looking into my reddened eyes, he spoke indifferently. "Name your price. What's the worth of a marriage as cheap and filthy as mud? One that lasted 9 years?" I couldn't be bothered to calculate. I only remembered what happened last time when I refused to lend Monica my goggles at the ski resort. Julian had stripped me bare and thrown me halfway down the mountain. I took off the safety bracelet and fastened it onto Monica's wrist. I told her, "I hope the child in your belly comes into this world safe and sound." Upon hearing this blessing, Julian, for once, offered me a so-called way out. "Diana, as long as you behave, my child will be your child too." But just as he finished speaking, the bracelet on Monica's wrist slipped off and shattered. Seeing the cut on Monica's leg, Julian immediately scooped her up like a princess. He barked at the butler to call the family doctor. His panic-stricken expression made everyone present turn their amused eyes toward me. In that moment, it wasn't just them who found the situation laughable. Even I thought it was ridiculous. Last night, while I was having a heart attack, Julian was heading out to watch a meteor shower with Monica. Even as I foamed at the mouth and collapsed on the floor, he didn't bat an eye as he stepped over me. Before I lost consciousness, I heard him instruct the butler, "Disinfect the whole living room. Moni is coming home tomorrow. She mustn't smell anything foul." I gripped the handle of my suitcase and turned to leave, but Julian grabbed my wrist with a cold expression. "Apologize." "Wah?" Before I could finish, he had already dragged me to my knees at Monica's feet. My knees scraped against the shattered jade and stained the white floor with blood. Seeing the smear of red, Julian looked disgusted and let go. "You pulled a trick to break Moni's bracelet and hurt her. Don't you think you owe her an apology?" After marrying Julian, "I'm sorry" had become my catchphrase. The soup was too bland, "I'm sorry." I texted him because I was worried he might be too drunk, "I'm sorry." I accidentally saw Monica's message asking to meet him at a hotel. "I'm terribly sorry for invading his privacy." With my lips bitten through, I resignedly stood up straight. I bowed to Monica at a full 180 degrees and apologized 3 times. Then I looked at Julian with a blank expression. Softly, I asked, "Is that enough?" Staring at the blood on my lips, his chest visibly heaved. "Diana, your precious old man isn't here to back you up. So who exactly are you trying to impress with that disgusting little act of pitiful fragility?" Before I could respond, the family doctor arrived in a hurry. Julian shoved me aside and led the doctor to Monica. As he poured all his concern into Monica, I quickly walked out the door. I had just stepped outside the villa when, beep beep, 2 sharp honks sounded. Seeing the silver car parked beyond the iron gate, I instinctively quickened my pace. But just as the gate began to open, 2 bodyguards appeared and forcibly dragged me back inside. In the study, Julian had me tied up like a criminal. He ordered someone to jab a needle as thick as a child's arm into mine. Through the half-open door, I heard the doctor say to Julian, "Mr. Law, although both Madam and Miss Monica have Rh-negative blood, Madam has a history of heart disease. Forcing a blood draw could cause acute shock. I think it's safer to go to the hospital first and then treat Miss Monica's anemia with a proper transfusion. No need to persuade me further." Julian replied coldly, "Your only job is to make Moni healthy again. As for the rest, I'll handle it my way." Hearing Julian's approaching footsteps, I slowly closed my eyes. "Does it hurt?" The man's voice was, for once, laced with rare gentleness. Hold on a bit longer. It'll be over soon. I turned my head away, not bothering to waste words on him. After drawing 800 milliliters of blood from my veins, my lips had already turned purple. At that moment, Monica, lying in the master bedroom, suddenly began to cough. At the sound, Julian immediately pressed down on the doctor's hand that was about to remove the needle, ordering him to extract double the amount. The doctor, sweating profusely, warned Julian that if they continued, I might die. After hesitating for 2 seconds, the man only said, Moni is pregnant. Everything must prioritize the mother-to-be. But I interrupted the doctor's protest. Go ahead. Just let me leave when it's done. Looking at my bloodless face, Julian's eyes filled with suppressed fury. He opened his mouth, about to question, was I done acting out? Did I really plan to storm out of the house over something so trivial? But Monica's soft and coy call, Julie, immediately reeled him away. 2 days later, I was hospitalized due to shock. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw Julian reviewing documents. Our gazes locked for a long moment, expressionless. He brought over a bowl of porridge and made a move to feed me. I simply shook my head. I'll do it myself. Watching me finish half the bowl in silence, Julian asked, Are you feeling unwell anywhere? I answered with a non sequitur. Could you please hand me my phone? Perhaps my tone was too distant, because Julian paused for several seconds before calling the butler to bring it over. Noticing the many missed calls on my screen, Julian suddenly asked, Who called you? He had never been one to ask so many questions. Annoyance flickered in my eyes as I replied, Someone you don't know. Undoing the top button of his shirt, Julian looked down at me coldly. Diana, how long do you plan on throwing this little princess tantrum? Give you an inch, and you'll take a mile. Is that it? Back then, whenever Julian got angry, I'd reflect on myself while doing everything I could to calm him down. But now, I simply pointed at his vibrating phone and said with a blank expression, Monica's calling. At that, a faint smile appeared in Julian's eyes, avoiding my gaze out of habit. He stepped into the hallway. As soon as he left, my phone rang. Before I could say anything, the voice on the other end spoke in anxious urgency. Didn't you say you were coming to see me? Diana, have you changed your mind? I haven't. I just ran into a bit of an accident. An accident? What happened? No, I'm flying back myself. Cutting off his rambling, I lowered my eyes and pressed my lips together. Just give me a few more days. When Julian returned to the room, I had just ended the call. Noticing the hint of a smile at the corner of my lips, something he hadn't seen in a long time, Julian suddenly felt a tightness in his chest. But he had just promised Monica to go back and sing lullabies for her and the baby, so there was no time to ask who I'd been talking to. He figured it was probably that cousin of mine who often visited. Ever since marrying him, my entire social life had dwindled to just female relatives. Taking the documents, Julian turned and said coldly without looking back, Diana, there's something at the company. I'll come again tomorrow. Tomorrow, the day after that. He never came. Thanks to mutual acquaintances, I kept receiving video clips of him and Monica. He brought Monica to banquets and dinner parties. Like a love-struck teenager, he couldn't wait to introduce her to everyone. The day I was discharged, Julian posted a 9-grid photo collage. Under the setting sun, he stood on a romantic hot air balloon, cupping Monica's flushed cheeks in his hands, kissing her deeply. I posted a comment, wishing you two a blissful marriage and lots of children. 10 minutes later, Julian called me. I didn't answer. Half an hour later, after finishing the discharge paperwork on my own, I saw Julian and Monica at the entrance of the obstetrics department. I overheard a young nurse at the consultation desk say to Monica, Mrs. Law, your husband really dotes on you. He accompanies you every single time. When you get your ultrasound scans, he even warms the coupling gel himself so it's not cold when we apply it. All the pregnant women around who heard this couldn't help but look on with envy. Instinctively touching my belly, I recalled that once, there was a child here, the day of the car accident, when I hemorrhaged and lost the baby. I sobbed as I video called Julian, but what I saw was Monica, completely naked. Mrs. Law, she said with a smirk, Julian lost to me in a game. so I've got him cuffed to the bed for punishment. Did you need something? I said nothing and hung up. Not even a minute later, Julian called back himself, holding a teary-eyed Monica in his arms. He exploded in rage, calling me petty and downright stupid. He also said, "A pathetic idiot who can't even keep her own baby, Diana. I honestly wonder what you're good for. You might as well have gotten hit by a truck and died." Snapping back to the present, I was just about to take a detour when Julian walked over with a cold expression. "What are you standing there like an idiot for?" Eyes lowered, I instinctively tried to explain. "I wasn't following you too, just ran into you by accident. Sorry for the intrusion." "Wait." Julian frowned as he said this, and a flash of jealousy crossed Monica's eyes. She tightened her hold on Julian's arm and smiled at me. "Mrs. Law, I really appreciate your blood donation. If it weren't for you, I'd still be dizzy now. Julie, please let Mrs. Law come home with us, okay?" Julian playfully tapped Monica's nose. "My kindest pregnant angel, whatever you say, goes." Since I was already planning to go home and get my luggage, I didn't turn down Monica's generosity. Inside the spacious black car, as Monica hoped, I soon discovered a freshly stained pair of lace panties stuck in the crevice between the seats. "Oh my, why is this still in the car? Julie, didn't you say you'd already gotten rid of it?" She bit her lip and snuggled into his chest, playfully punching him with a coy blush. Julian chuckled as he apologized to Monica, saying it was all his fault, while discreetly watching my reaction. When he realized I wasn't even angry, that stifling feeling from the hospital room returned to him without reason. "Diana, ever since you got in the car, you've been glued to your phone." His tone turned sour, almost jealous. "Are you chatting with your cousin again? Or someone I don't know?" Having just booked a plane ticket, I locked my phone screen, just reading the news. Hearing that, the displeasure between Julian's brows became even more obvious. Catching me off guard, he snatched the phone. In a low voice, he asked for the password. My birthday, 9 years of marriage. Such a simple 6-digit code, and yet he kept entering it wrong until the phone locked. The rest of the ride was silent. When we arrived, Julian immediately helped the nauseated Monica into the master bedroom with great care. Then he told the cook to prepare her favorite dishes. As he came downstairs, he saw my lonely figure heading toward the guest room. After a moment of thought, he told the cook, "Make 2 more of my wife's usual dishes. Prepare 3 sets of tableware for dinner." Inside the guest room, when I opened my suitcase, I was surprised to find all my clothes had been shredded. Thankfully, my passport and documents tucked in the innermost layer were unharmed. As I gathered them and got ready to leave, Monica blocked the door. She held a black bottle in her hand and looked me over with scorn in her eyes. "Diana, I didn't expect you to be this tolerant. Even after I publicly humiliated you and made you the laughingstock of high society, you're still clinging on to the Law family, refusing to leave. Then again, your old hag of a grandma just died last month, with your biggest supporter gone. Of course you're clinging to Julie like he's your last lifeline." At that, Monica suddenly recalled something amusing. "Diana, remember how you cried and begged Julie to fly you in the helicopter to see your grandma one last time before she passed? Do you know why he said no? Because he'd promised to take me to the beach to watch the sunset that day. Look, this kissing photo on my phone screen, Julian took it that day." Smack! I finally lost all restraint and slapped Monica's phone out of her hand, then grabbed her by the throat. The bottle in her hand slipped and hit the floor, and I immediately smelled the sharp stench of gasoline. In the scuffle, Monica, panicked and frantic, accidentally ignited the gasoline on the floor. Thick smoke billowed, flames roared. Having just been discharged from the hospital, I was soon overcome by the smoke, my body weakening until I collapsed on the floor. At that moment, I heard Julian's voice. "Diana!" It was followed by the staff shouting to stop him. "Sir, it's too dangerous in there. You can't go in yet. Wait for security to bring the extinguishers. Move. Diana's still in there." In the end, he still disregarded the danger and rushed into the flames, but he didn't expect Monica to also be inside. "Julie, save." Before Monica could finish her plea, Julian had already scooped her up without the slightest hesitation. He didn't even glance at me, just turned and carried her out. Half an hour later, after comforting Monica, Julian searched the entire villa but couldn't find any trace of me. Late at night, at the airport, having mailed a package, I boarded a flight to the UK, coughing as I went. Right before takeoff, I received a text from Julian. I don't have time to play hide-and-seek with you. Monica has a prenatal checkup tomorrow at 10 a.m. Come along and get your lungs checked too. I didn't reply. I pulled out the SIM card and shut down the phone. Julian, from this moment on, you and I will never see each other again. Chapter 2. The next day. At the hospital. Julie, is our baby okay? Facing Monica's pitiful and fragile gaze, Julian immediately wrapped his arms around her and gently replied, "The doctor said the baby is healthy, completely unaffected by yesterday's accident." That's a relief. You've been so tense and silent since we got here. I thought something had happened to our baby. Monica's offhand remark made the man freeze for a moment. In his mind, an image surfaced uncontrollably, me, staring at him coldly through the blazing flames. Frowning, Julian opened his inbox again, irritated that I still hadn't replied, not even a single word. Back then, no matter how he ignored or neglected me, I always responded to him, always gave in. But now, I'd learned to act aloof and put on airs. With a quiet sneer in his heart, Julian carefully escorted Monica out of the OBGYN department, ate lunch with her, took her safely home, and then headed to the office. As soon as he entered, a male subordinate reported that Mr. Law Sr. had returned to the country and was calling an urgent meeting with all senior management in conference room 1. Hearing this, Julian turned toward the meeting room while casually instructing the subordinate, "Buy me a few of the latest designer handbags and trendy jewelry." The subordinate quickly responded, "Got it, Mr. Law. I'll arrange for someone to buy them right away and send them to Monica's place." Julian stopped in his tracks, pinching the bridge of his nose. Send them to Diana's old family house. In his mind, after leaving the villa, I couldn't possibly be staying anywhere else. A week later, late at night, after finally wrapping up a major project, Julian returned home only to see a slender figure in a silk nightgown curled up on the living room sofa like a shrimp. "Diana, how many times do I have to tell you? I'll come home when I'm done with work. There's no need for you to always." But as he got closer and realized it was Monica on the sofa, Julian's mocking complaint abruptly stopped. Feeling his cold gaze fixed on her, Monica shivered slightly, her expression a mix of grievance and vulnerability. "Julie, the lady hasn't returned all this time. I've sent her so many apology messages, but she never replied. Maybe I should move out." Seeing Monica about to cry again, Julian frowned subtly and pulled her into his arms. He pressed a kiss to her forehead perfunctorily, telling her to take care of herself and not overthink it, no matter whether Diana accepts it or not. "From now on, this is your home, yours and the baby's." Half an hour after making this promise, Julian, now in a robe, stood alone on the open balcony smoking. He'd quit smoking for a long time. Yet tonight, for some reason, he simply couldn't resist. Almost on instinct, he scrolled through his phone and reached the bottom of his contact list, where he saw my number. His thumb hovered over the call button for a long time. After finishing 2 cigarettes, he still didn't dial. Instead, he sent a warning message. "Diana, tomorrow is grandfather's 80th birthday. I suggest you don't pull any stunts at the party. Don't bring trouble to Moni or the baby she's carrying." On the day of Mr. Law's birthday banquet, Julian arrived with Monica in high spirits, looking every bit the loving couple. Not until Mr. Law Sr. himself entered the venue did Julian let go of Monica's hand, stepping aside to accompany his grandfather in greeting important guests. "Why didn't Diana come with you?" Faced with the old man's pointed question, Julian pressed his lips together and, for once, spoke up for me. "Sorry, Grandpa. Diana's been busy preparing a gift these past few days. She looked exhausted, so I let her rest and come later." 2 hours quickly passed. The banquet had reached its highlight, the gift presentation and birthday wishes segment, but I still hadn't shown up. Suppressing a growing sense of unease in his chest, Julian stepped into a corner and pulled out his phone. He dialed my number. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is currently unavailable." Unwilling to give up, he kept redialing, but all he got was the same mechanical busy tone. At that moment, A courier walked into the banquet hall. He delivered all 3 gifts I had sent. Under the curious gazes of everyone, Mr. Law Sr. smiled warmly as he opened the first gift. Inside was an intricately embroidered tapestry depicting the gods bestowing blessings for longevity. It was immediately clear that I had spent months of effort crafting it by hand. Moved to tears, Mr. Law Sr. opened the second gift. It was the heirloom jewelry gifted to me by the Law family matriarch on my wedding day with Julian. The moment the jewelry was revealed, the entire room fell into silence. Everyone in the upper-class social circle knew exactly what it meant when a woman returned family heirlooms. It was a declaration. Before Mr. Law could even recover, Julian, his face ashen with rage, walked over and clenched his fists in silence as he approached the third gift. As I had expected, the man, cold as ice, personally lifted the lid of the final box. It was large in size, but its contents were shockingly minimal. Just a divorce agreement and a medical report. Julian froze. Divorce? I wanted a divorce? That was impossible. When he read what was written in the report, Mr. Law Sr. slapped Julian hard across the face in front of everyone. You beast! Look at what you've done. If I'd known it would come to this, I would never have let you marry Diana. You've ruined her life. Julian! Seeing the old man nearly faint from fury, the Law family quickly helped him out of the hall. Once everyone else had tactfully cleared out, Julian remained rooted to the spot, staring at the divorce agreement in his hands. After who knew how long, he tore the agreement into shreds with a blank expression, ignoring Monica's shouting behind him. He took the keys from the driver and drove himself straight to Diana's old family home. But to his dismay, the house was completely dark, inside and out. Rolling down the window, he sat at the garden gate, smoking through the entire night. He smoked until his throat was raw and swollen, until his voice was hoarse, but still, no light came on. It wasn't until 5 days after the birthday banquet that he finally found out I had already left the country. Why did she leave the country? Was she really that determined never to see him again? He just made the same mistake that all men make. So why did Diana get to say goodbye just like that? File for divorce just like that? He didn't agree. He wouldn't allow it. After finally uncovering my exact location, Julian immediately booked the next available international flight. He didn't even go home, didn't pack, just left straight from the office to the airport. As he was about to check in, Monica showed up with tears brimming in her eyes. Julie, are you abandoning me and the baby? Casting a glance at her slightly rounded belly, Julian gently patted her head and said, I've had Assistant Lou prepare a new place for you. You'll move in today. At that, Monica's tears streamed down uncontrollably. As long as I can be with you, I'd live in a garbage dump if I had to. But Julie, our baby is innocent. If Diana really loved you, she'd treat our child as her own. Instead of ruining Grandpa's birthday banquet and humiliating you and the Law family in front of everyone. A woman like her. Before Monica could finish venting her resentment, Julian, his expression icy, cut her off. What right do you have to judge my wife? Monica, I used to think you were sensible, but now it's clear, you don't know your place. Taking the boarding pass from the airport staff, Julian looked down at her with a chilling gaze. No matter how many children I have outside, Diana will always be my one and only wife. Also, when you move out of the villa, make sure to take everything that belongs to you. I don't want Diana to see any trace of you when she comes back and start another argument. Monica stood frozen, tears streaming, staring blankly for a long moment before she finally laughed bitterly at his retreating back. Ha! Julian, I didn't expect you to be even more naive than me. You hurt Diana so deeply. How could she ever come back to you? They say women understand women best, but Julian, striding away without hesitation, paid no mind to Monica's words. He knew his wife. In the 9 years of their marriage, no matter how angry Diana had been with him, as long as he sincerely apologized and bought her some gifts she liked, she always came back. But then again, this time, Diana was angry enough to print out a divorce agreement. Some ordinary gifts clearly wouldn't cut it. After thinking hard about it, the moment Julian landed in the foreign country, he went straight to a local tattoo studio. He pulled out a design sketch I had sent him 5 years ago and said to the tattoo artist, I'm in a hurry, no anesthetic. 7 hours later, Julian walked out of the tattoo studio in a blood-stained white shirt. He bought gifts worth tens of millions and 999 pure white roses. Having barely closed his eyes in almost 48 hours, Julian drove himself straight to a vineyard estate on the outskirts of London. On the highway, he repeated the perfectly choreographed apology plan in his mind. Again and again, nervous, excited, hopeful. But no matter how many versions he rehearsed, the first line he always imagined himself saying to me was, "Diana, I missed you so much." At last, Julian found me in this foreign country, but the flowers slipped from his hands the moment he saw me. Beneath the setting sun, I was nestled in the arms of a tall, handsome man. A smile graced my face, the kind Julian had never seen, relaxed, carefree, as I playfully fed sweet, tangy grapes to that man. And he to me. Julian never got to say "I missed you." All he managed was a stunned, foolish question. "Who is he?" Feeling my body tense, Santiago pulled me closer. "You must be Julian. I've seen your wedding photos with Diana. TSK. Didn't expect you to look even worse in person." Watching me giggle behind my hand at Santiago's teasing, the pain in Julian's chest was like being punched twice. He clenched his fists so hard that his nails cut into his palms. "Since you traveled all this way, I'll be polite and introduce myself, Santiago. Diana's." "Santiago? Now I remember. You're the son of the chauffeur Diana's family took in, the ungrateful bastard who was kicked out by Diana's grandmother for stealing." Santiago simply raised a brow, unbothered by Julian's attempt to provoke him. But I frowned. Protective. "Julian, Santiago isn't who you say he is. And what are you even doing here? Showing up at a private estate without permission, that's trespassing." Hearing the dismissal in my voice, Julian's face darkened. He completely forgot he came to win me back, not to argue. "Diana, I came here in person. Please stop throwing a childish tantrum and just come home with me." "Home?" I looked at Julian like he was delusional. "Did you get into a car accident and damage your brain?" "Julian, we're divorced. Didn't you see the divorce papers? They had my signature." Sure, there was always a tiny chance the delivery went missing. As I mentally noted to reprint the documents, I heard him shamelessly declare, "That pathetic excuse of a divorce agreement?" I ripped it to shreds. "Diana, I know exactly what you're mad about. I've already handled the Monica situation. I swear, she'll never show up to bother you again." Julian Law hurried closer, reaching out to touch the face he had missed day and night. But before he could, I had already pushed him away. My voice was calm, almost emotionless. "Mr. Law, when the Diana family fell on hard times, only the Law family offered help. These 9 years of marriage, I've been doing my best to repay that debt. Now that Monica is pregnant with your child, the Law family finally has an heir. From the bottom of my heart, I wish your little family of 3 a lifetime of happiness and peace." At that, even someone as shrewd as Julian couldn't miss the finality in my tone. In that moment, he panicked, completely, utterly panicked. "Wife, why are you saying this? Are you telling me the past 9 years were just a repayment of gratitude? You expect me to believe a lie that stupid?" No, he didn't believe it. He refused to believe it. If I didn't love him, then why did I always pout and ask for a kiss before he left for work? Why did I cry my eyes swollen when he had surgery, waiting outside the door like a fool, refusing to leave no matter who tried to comfort me? I loved him, so deeply, so obviously, that anyone with eyes could see how much I loved him. And yet, what did he do in return? The more devoted and obedient I was, the more he trampled my dignity without hesitation. He forgot that the human heart is made of flesh. Pain it enough, numb it enough, and one day, it won't feel anything anymore. Julian forced a smile, uglier than a sob, his eyes bloodshot as he looked at me. "Diana, I really didn't know Monica's presence would hurt you this much. It was just a one-night stand after too much to drink. Bringing her home, it was out of responsibility. That's all. Once the baby is born, I'll have her emigrate and leave, okay?" I firmly shook my head. "Julian, I don't care what kind of relationship you and Monica have. What matters is, I have a new life here, and there's no way I'm going back with you. So just leave, please." "What new life?" "You." But before he could finish, the stress overwhelmed him. 2 days without sleep, combined with blood loss from the tattoo, hit him hard. The world spun violently, and everything around him faded to black. When he next regained consciousness, it was already 11 p.m. Seeing a glass of water on the nightstand, brought in by the housekeeper, Julian misunderstood, joy creeping into his face. He pushed himself out of bed, ignoring the pain in his body, determined to find me. But when he, drenched in cold sweat, reached the rooftop terrace by the spiral staircase, what greeted him was a heart-wrenching scene of me and Santiago locked in a passionate embrace. His heart seized up with sharp pain. Julian's pale lips tightened as he lunged forward and grabbed Santiago by the collar, gritting his teeth. "What the hell are you doing to Diana?" By now, Julian could no longer lie to himself. Santiago wasn't just some so-called childhood neighbor. "Who gave you permission to touch my wife?" Santiago let out a laugh. "Your wife, Julian. Did you ever treat Diana like she was your wife?" "You." Before Julian could explode again, the hot-blooded Santiago landed a punch square on the left side of Julian's face. "You bastard. If Diana weren't so kind, I'd have thrown your sorry ass out to the wolves beyond the vineyard long ago. Listen up, Diana is now my fiancée. No matter how shamelessly you cling to her, she'll never look your way again." Julian's raised fist dropped midair. Stunned, he looked at me in disbelief. "Is that true? Diana, it hasn't even been a month since we split, and you've already accepted someone else's proposal?" I didn't tell Julian that the day I found out Monica was pregnant. I had already said yes, via video call, to Santiago's earnest proposal. A man who had loved me since childhood. I just leaned lazily into Santiago's broad shoulder, smiled faintly, and replied with a soft mem. Julian's voice trembled with disbelief. "Diana, are you insane? You're my wife. I never agreed to the divorce, and now you're shacking up with another man? How could you do this to me? How could I not?" I tilted my head slightly, blinking with calm indifference. "Does your consent matter that much to me?" "Julian, you really do think too highly of yourself. Let me say this one last time. You mean nothing to me. We're over, completely." Without sparing another glance at the shattered Julian, I interlocked fingers with Santiago, turned around, and continued chatting under the moonlight. No one knew exactly when Julian left the vineyard, and no one cared. But he didn't return to his home country. Instead, he bought a high-rise apartment near the vineyard, one with a clear view of the grape fields. Every day, when not in remote meetings with his corporate team back in China, Julian drove to the estate's gate. He brought different flowers each time, or little gifts I had once mentioned in passing, things he never gave me back when I was his wife. He waited for me to appear, but I never acknowledged him, nor did I change my routine for his sake. 9 years of humiliating, imbalanced marriage had taught me one thing. A woman should never bend her life's path just to accommodate a man. Work when you need to work. Socialize when you want to socialize. This world is vast, I only need to make myself happy. As for Julian, I figured the only reason he clung to me so desperately was because Mr. Law Sr. couldn't bear to see me suffer. He'd probably ordered Julian to win me back no matter what. So I personally called Mr. Law and told him I was engaged. I had a new life. And I kindly asked him to stop pressuring Julian into wasting time in the UK. But to my surprise, even after that call, Julian continued showing up at the vineyard gates every day for an entire month. All just to steal a glimpse of me through the car window, from afar. The first to lose patience wasn't me. It was Santiago. That night, after Santiago and I had just returned from a party, we spotted Julian from afar standing under a street lamp, holding his same old bouquet of white roses. The moment I stepped out of the car, the night sky behind us suddenly exploded into tens of thousands of rainbow-colored fireworks. Santiago had, in a sort of self-inflicted masochism, watched the video of Julian proposing to me more times than he could count. Back then, young and naive, I'd been dazzled by the brilliant fireworks in the sky and, overwhelmed with joy, accepted Julian's proposal. Now, seeing how the fireworks still caught my eye, the already insecure Santiago finally snapped. He charged up to Julian and, full of fury, started a fight right there in the street. "Julian, you shameless piece of crap. All you do is lurk around hoping my fiancé will spare you a glance. In all my 30 years, I've never seen a clingy bastard as pathetic as you." "Oh, I'm pathetic?" Then what does that make you? Diana and I were together for 9 years. If it weren't for her losing the ability to have children in that car accident, I would have never agreed to let Monica keep the baby. I'm telling you, Diana just misunderstood the situation. She only said yes to you, her eternal backup plan, because she thinks I don't love her anymore. But once I make it right and she cools off, she'll dump you and come back to me in no time. Hearing this, Santiago let out a cold, furious laugh and punched Julian straight to the ground. The day I lost my baby in that car crash, it was Santiago who dropped everything and flew to my side, never once leaving me until I was out of the hospital. And Julian? Julian claimed he was too busy with work but had actually bought 2 tickets to Prague and spent that time whining and dining Monica all across the tourist city. Despite my attempts to stop them, the 2 men kept brawling, until a patrol car with 2 foreign police officers happened to pass by. One officer locked eyes with Julian, then immediately got out of the vehicle, broke up the fight, and without discussion, hauled all 3 of us to the nearest hospital. At the hospital, though I was clearly there for Santiago, I was inexplicably pushed into Julian's room instead. At that moment, I finally understood the whole thing had been Julian's trap from the start. All this effort, all this drama, just so he could have time alone with me. Looking at him, I laughed and asked, was all of this really necessary? Julian, his eyes slightly red and 2 ribs broken, gave me an awkward little smile. Then, in a raspy voice, he said, word by word, Diana, I missed you. I missed you so much I thought I would go insane. When the doctor came in to tend to Julian's injuries, I caught sight of the tattoo on his chest. The sun, the moon, the stars. It was a design I had drawn myself during my first pregnancy, a symbolic image of a family of 3. I remembered what Julian said when I first showed it to him. The moon? Someone like you thinks you're worthy of that? Back in the room, while Santiago was temporarily led away, Julian approached me and grabbed my wrist tightly, refusing to let go. Diana, I want to apologize to you in person. I'm sorry. My love, everything was my fault. I'll do everything I can to make it up to you, please. Just forgive me. Before I could say a word, his phone rang. It was Monica. Julian answered and immediately put it on speaker. Julie, help, please. Julie. Assistant Han just barged into the apartment with a group of people. They've taken me to a hospital. They're going to take our baby. They want to terminate it. Her screams were gut-wrenching and desperate, but Julian didn't even flinch. He just smiled at me calmly and said, Monica, I already know you drugged me that night. That child cannot be born. Also, those rumor posts you had fake accounts publish online about the Law family's wife being infertile? I've already had them erased. And the price for slandering my wife is that during your surgery, the doctors won't be giving you any anesthesia. From now on, you'll never be able to have children again. For several seconds, there was only silence, then came Monica's gasping, broken sobs over the phone. Mr. Law, Mr. Law, I was confused. I didn't mean it. Punish me however you want, I beg you. Please, just don't hurt our baby. Law, ah! Hearing Monica's sudden blood-curdling scream, I instinctively frowned and blinked, noticing the change in my expression. Julian immediately hung up the call. He gently placed my hand against his cheek, his face unusually pale, and spoke to me with deep emotion. Diana, I'll have them send over the surgery video later tonight. Once you've seen it with your own eyes, could you maybe forgive me? Even just a little? Even just a little would be enough. I pulled back my soiled hand, looked at the instantly deflated man, and calmly suggested, this hospital has a pretty famous psychiatric department. You should go register immediately. Julian gave a weak smile. Okay, whatever you say. Julian thought, over the past 9 years, there were countless things he owed me. But it didn't matter. Now that he finally understood his mistakes, he would spend the rest of his life making it up to me. Except, on the 3rd day of holding on to that resolution, Santiago and I held a grand wedding ceremony. When Julian got wind of it and drove like a maniac to the venue, the elderly priest had just finished reading the vows. Julian heard it himself, me, standing there in a white wedding gown, smiling as I said to Santiago, I do. No, Diana, You can't marry him. His heart numbed. Overwhelmed by piercing pain, Julian collapsed onto the bright red carpet. The man once so composed and aloof, now knelt like a stray dog soaked in the rain, voice hoarse as he begged, "Wife, don't do this. We're not divorced. I never agreed to divorce you. I'm begging you. Don't marry another man." Looking down at him with undisguised disgust, I said coldly, "Julian, for the sake of the red envelope Mr. Law sent to congratulate me, I'll graciously forgive your rude interruption of my wedding, but this ceremony between Santiago and me does not welcome you. So please, go back to wherever you came from." Hearing my merciless words, Julian could no longer hold back his tears. "Diana, I really know I was wrong. If you'll just give me one last chance, I swear, I'll change. I can't bear a life without you. Ever since you left, I think about you every single day, even in my dreams. It's all about the way you once loved me. Diana, I love you. I love you more than anyone else ever could, ****, pouring his overwhelming love out loud. Desperate and unrestrained, Julian trembled violently, the veins on his forehead bulging as he tore open his black shirt, pointing at the still bleeding moon tattoo on his chest. His bloodshot eyes pleaded, "You're my moon, my love. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Just don't abandon me." Pfft. Seeing me not only unmoved, but actually cover my mouth and laugh, Julian looked completely stunned. Meeting his broken gaze, I spoke softly, like a breeze, "Julian, I've already found someone who truly loves me, and whom I love. That man is now my husband, Santiago. As for you, even if every other man on this earth dropped dead, I still wouldn't choose you." He could only watch as I smiled brightly and allowed Santiago, his ears flushed red with joy, to slide a 9-carat diamond ring onto my finger. Julian felt every drop of blood in his body turn to ice when I held Santiago's hand and walked past him, letting Santiago scoop me into a bridal carry, beaming as he took me toward the honeymoon car. Julian, left behind in the dust, suddenly did something terrifying and completely unexpected. He grabbed the silver cake-cutting knife. Tears of blood in his eyes, he screamed, "You're just afraid of getting hurt again. But that's okay, I'll cut my heart out and show you how real it is." And with that, he plunged the blade into his chest. Julian collapsed, trembling violently in agony. "Look, Diana, my heart that never stopped loving you. Diana, please, just turn around, look at my love one last time." His wailing was pitiful, echoing in my ears. But I didn't look back, I only snuggled deeper into Santiago's arms and sweetly whined, "Hubby, crazy people are so scary. Please take me away now." Santiago strode out of the chapel in long, powerful steps, gently placing me in the passenger seat of the sports car. "Wife, let's run away together, okay?" With smiling eyes, I leaned contentedly on Santiago's shoulder, and just like that, he hit the gas, taking me toward my real happiness.